Okay, so thank you. Welcome back, everybody. And I'm just going to go through the last part of the presentation that I had to sort of whiz through. And that is to talk to you a bit more about non-native crustaceans that you might come across in Cornish waters or in the southwest. It's important that we sort of bring these up because who knows, you could be out rockpooling one day and you could find one of these. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you don't record it, it'd be a real shame. So you definitely need people to be keeping a lookout. So the first species that I'm going to show you is the Asian shore crab. This is a species that has been found in the UK. It's very common on mainland Europe. I've seen it personally in France, but it's very abundant as well in Holland and Belgium. And it could well have a big ecological impact if it arrives here. As the name suggests, it's from Asia, not from Europe. It's a small, very fast crab, related to the Sally Lightfoots, the really scuttly ones you get in tropical places that I love to try and catch. But these are quite cryptic. They'll hide in little crevices, and you can tell what they are because they've got these spots all over their claws, as well as this round shape, round carapace. Very similar to a European species called Pachygraspus marmoratus, the marble shore crab you can see in the bottom of that slide. This is not a non-native, it is a European species, but one that we are predicting its range may change due to climate change and warming seas. So keep a lookout for that one as well. We've had a few records in the UK of Pachygraspus marmoratus, and I've seen a lot of them in Brittany, so there's a chance they could arrive here. I feel like the St. Piran's crab arrived here probably as a larvae drifting across the channel. Lots of crabs have this sort of larval stage in their life cycle. So, trying to move to the next slide, and it's now not working. It's funny. I wonder why that's not. Sorry, folks, just got a little technical hitch here. I'm just going to solve. So I'm actually going to lock the meeting again, just so that now everybody is in, hopefully. Sorry if anyone missed out. And that just hopefully will allow me to see what I'm doing with my presentation again. So let's just share the presentation. Thank you for bearing with me. No, that's still not working. So the next species, one to look out for, brush-clawed shore crab. It's not been found in Cornwall, and I'm not sure if we have any UK records. I'm wondering actually if Chris Wood is in the audience. Christine, can you hear me? If you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Christine. Yeah, good.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the one that is now most common in the UK is actually the one you're looking at now, Hemigrapsus takenoi.
Yeah.
It's becoming prevalent in East Anglia and Kent. So that's the one you're most likely to actually see.
What sort of habitat would that be in?
Muddy shore, harbours. I mean, I found the first one in Gillingham Marina, hanging on a rope, but it's been found amongst the oyster beds in Brightlingsea. So if you look amongst your oysters, you may see this. But I mean, currently all the records are for this one are predominantly from North Kent and East Anglia. The other one, Hemigrapsus sanguineus, is only one or two, well actually there's a very recent record that's come in again from Kent, but there were some original records, one from Wales and one from Kent, I think, but that one seemed to disappear then.
So again, a small little shore crab.
Yeah, this is small. Yeah, takenoi is even smaller than sanguineus.
has these very distinctive brushes on the claws, which are like patches of hair, which make it quite easily recognised. But yeah, keep a lookout. If you ever see a sort of more square-shaped crab than you used to, it is quite distinctively different to a common shore crab, but sounds like it being the same sort of habitat, doesn't it? As a common shore crab.
I mean, it's that very flat top, very flat across the eyes that is the easiest spotting issue. But if you find one, hang on to it, and it'll go off to the Natural History Museum to be definitely identified.
Yeah. And it's vital that we keep a lookout for this, because they could have quite a major ecological impact, couldn't they?
I mean, it's all, it's all over Brittany, all that Channel coast. So you know, it's definitely. I mean, like I say, it's arrived now. And the other thing is that the first records of Hemigraptus takenoi were misidentified as Pachygrappus. So that's the other thing. It looks very similar to that one. So, but again, that's quite rare. So anything like that is worth hanging on to. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. That's great. And then the last one to mention is quite a large crab in comparison, isn't it? This is the Chinese mitten crab. It also has furry bits on its claws, and these burrow into the banks of estuaries and rivers and muddy areas, and they can even extend quite far upstream, can't they, Chris? So I think there's big populations of these in some of our rivers.
They actually spend most of their time upriver. They're the only freshwater crab, and they only come down to the estuary to actually breed. And you're much more likely to find them upriver than you are down on the coast.
I'm right in saying there's no records yet in the southwest. Is that right?
Pardon?
No records of these in the southwest.
I think there's a spurious record that we're not convinced about. But not really, no. But if you go to Hampton Court and you watch the river at a certain time of year, they all come trooping past as they go down to the sea to breed, and then they all troop back again. But they can travel hundreds of thousands of kilometres upriver. I mean, in Europe, the records for Europe are amazing how far they'll travel, and they'll come out of the water and go on land and carry on. So, you know, they're relentless.
So these are all sort of invading species we'd like to keep a lookout for. Interestingly, some of our European species have invaded other parts of the world, haven't they? So we've now got big problems in New Zealand and in America and Australia with the common shore crab, which is a European species. So we've exported a few crabs, and we've also received a few from other corners of the world. But yeah, a fascinating group of animals. I hope you found it interesting, and also, you know, I hope some of you are going to pay a little more attention when you're out and about. Who knows, you could find something really rare. We'd love you to send in records to us. You can either share your pictures on our Shoresearch Cornwall or Seasearch Cornwall Facebook pages, or even better, send us a proper record, including the time, the date, and the location, using our online system, Orcs. Orcs, if you haven't come across this, it's nothing to do with the Lord of the Rings. It actually stands for Online Recording for Kernogan and Scilly. So any records found anywhere in Cornwall or Scilly, you can send in wildlife records, land or sea, using this brilliant website. So yeah, so there you go. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we're going to just sort of have a look now at some of the questions that you've been posing us on the chat function. And yeah, so it's there we go. So we're going to start off with
Amy's got the first question with, what is the most common crab in Cornwall?
The most common species of crab in Cornwall. Well, I would have definitely said it was the common shore crab, and certainly the common shore crab is the most common species in our harbours and estuaries. But if you go, I suppose, if you averaged it out over all of the different habitats, it may not be that one actually. There's some shores where they seem to be fairly rare, and the pebble crab seems to be becoming more common. Remember I was saying the one that looks like also known as the furrowed crab. And then the edible crab. So those are the top three. I'm afraid I wouldn't stick my neck out and say which one's the most common.
And then Robin has asked, Do you know how far up the North Coast St. Piran's crab has been recorded?
Ah, that's a good question. So the St. Piran's crab, yeah, it's certainly its strongholds seem to be places like Mounts Bay and the Helford, Port Leven. So on the south coast, there seems to be a lot of strongholds. But there's a really big population of them near Newquay in a cove called Porth Mere. That's a different Porth Mere to the one at St Ives. So it's up just north of Newquay, in between Bedreathon and Porth Potham. And in the rock pools there's a huge population of these St. Piran's crabs. But yeah, we would really welcome more records, and certainly volunteers from Bude Marine Group and Perranporth Marine Group and all the North Coast volunteers are scouring the coast, and Newquay, scouring the coastline looking for St. Piran's crabs. So yeah, please do tell us if you find them, because we'd be really interested in seeing if they continue to sort of spread further along the coastline. Right,
and next question is from Tamsin, and what is the biggest species of crustacean in Cornwall?
The biggest one is, the largest crab is the giant box crab. Do you remember the one that looks like a potato with legs? That specimen we had at the aquarium, we actually named him Mr. Potato. Spud, we named him because his body was like a big baked potato with really long legs. In terms of weight, though, I think the lobster can grow heavier. In fact, the largest lobster ever found in the UK was brought into Foy, and there's a model of it at the Foy Aquarium. It was nearly 4 foot long. So, yeah, quite close actually between those two species to call.
And the next question is from Sharon, and she asks, where's the best place and when is to search for crabs? So when and where?
Well, I don't know if you can tell us a bit about where you live in Cornwall. That would be helpful. I mean, the south coast beaches are brilliant. What you need is a beach with like nice small rocks, small slaty rocks that you can easily lift and look underneath. And obviously, always put the rocks back where you found them. Don't harm the animals. Be careful as you move the rocks, because sometimes you might crush a crab. But those habitats are brilliant. And my top tip would be Swampole Beach in Falmouth, as just a very, very easy place. Right next to the little stream on the left of the beach, there's an area of rocks, so you don't have to walk far, and every rock has loads of crabs under it.
Okay, next question's from Christopher, and he asks, what species is more at risk in terms of sustainable numbers in Cornwall?
Well, we don't have any species that at the moment we're really worried about it becoming sort of over-exploited. Having said that, we are concerned at the moment that the crawfish, which have made an amazing comeback after many years of absence in our waters, we are concerned that if people get a bit carried away and fish for them hard again, we could end up seeing them getting overfished. But certainly at the moment, the population seems pretty healthy. But we really hope that the fisheries control people, Cornwall IFCA, bring in some additional management to ensure that fishery for that species stays sustainable and they don't get overfished. But no, there aren't any other species that we're really worried about in terms of being really rare, luckily.
And then Sharon said she's from Newquay, so good place to go is also Fish Store, Newquay, which is where I'm based. And then Porth, like Matt was saying.
For shore crabs, you go down to Porth, down to Gannel, don't you? You know the little bridge across the Gannel?
Yeah, the little bridge is good.
If you go crabbing off the bridge there with some bacon or other bait, you'll find loads of shore crabs down there, which is great fun. But actually, the north coast, you find that the surf means that crabs aren't quite as abundant as they are on the south coast shorelines.
Falmouth's probably quite a nice little 20-minute drive away, which is quite a good
Can't
one.
Really do that at the moment, then, can we? Sadly, most of us with the lockdown, but yeah.
Also when lockdown's over, Sharon, Newquay Marine Group's also holding lots of Rockpool events, so they can sort of help you show where all the crabs are and everything. So like their Facebook page. And then Daz has asked, what crab has the hardest pinch?
I think Daz has probably experienced that because he's an old hand at crab handling. But yeah, the edible crab has definitely got the strongest pinch. He's probably asking me this because he knows it's my party piece. So at the aquarium, we used to get a nice big crab from the fisherman and look after it and keep it and feed it well, and then bring it out occasionally to show the customers how strong they are. And if you put a walnut into the claw of the crab, it just squeezes it and it just explodes. Really, really powerful. They even do Brazil nuts. But I don't get to show that off very much these days, because nowadays I don't look after creatures, keep them in cages like I used to have to do. To be honest, I don't miss that. I'm quite pleased just to be looking at them in their natural habitat. But yeah, definitely that one, Daz. Although I expect you've been pinched by a few crabs in your time, so you might want to tell us which one you reckon it is. I know a couple of fishermen who have actually had their fingers really badly damaged whilst working and pulling crabs out of pots. But luckily the claw, as it comes together, has a little gap here. So if you're there, it'll break your finger. But most people manage to sort of slip their finger in and escape without actually too much injury.
And Paul has asked for the final question: is crab behaviour seasonal?
Good question, Paul. Yeah, they tend to be less active through the colder months, and that's certainly the time of year when there's less foraging opportunity for crabs. So they don't molt as frequently through the winter months. And also, many of our sort of offshore species of crab undergo seasonal migrations. So you'll find that species like spider crabs will migrate into shallower waters in warmer months, and then in the colder months they'll move further offshore where the sea temperatures are more steady and they're deeper and away from swells. So there is some sort of seasonality in crab behaviour. Lobsters, I think, tend to kind of stay in their territory all year, but perhaps are more active at night time and more active as the water warms up. So yeah, trying to think of any other examples. Can't think of any right now, but there certainly will be seasonality. So yeah, have we got any other questions that anyone? Oh, someone said, can we recommend a good book? Well, I personally think I'm still a bit old-fashioned. I use have it on my desk here. Can't find it. I use the Collins Guide. That's the Collins Guide to the Seashore. It's quite it's been out of print for a few years, but you can still get it on eBay secondhand. It's a really great book because it's got all of the crustaceans in there that are common in the UK, plus I think about 3,000 other species. There isn't a really good photo ID guide just for crabs, but there's a great book by
Tim's got the book there.
Steve Coella and Julie Hatcher, which is a really nice book, the Rockpool Essential Guide to Rockpooling, that was launched last year, which has got a great section on crabs and other crustaceans, including nearly all of the species we've mentioned today. So, we are lucky at that. There's been some great books. Heather's got a lovely book called Rockpool, and tomorrow you'll have an opportunity to hear Heather Buttervance talking about her favourite family of animals, which is the sea slugs. But yeah, I would really recommend Heather's book as well for picking up lots of interesting facts about crabs and other rockpool creatures. And this one's a great ID guide as well, their photo ID.
So we've got some more questions on the chat. And Fran's asked, what month does the spider crab spawning happen? Because she's been seeing increased numbers. That's
great to hear that you're seeing more of them each day in cool sand. That is brilliant. So it is now coming in. The water is noticeably warming up at this time of year. And although we've actually had some nice weather, but even if you don't have nice weather in sort of March and April, sea temperatures start to steadily warm up because of the Gulf Stream. So yeah, we expect to see those aggregations. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's between it's about now, between the start of May and June. But
I normally see the husks of spider crabs in mass in about July, but that's when they've already
that might be after
the way again.
I think I would personally email Paul Naylor, who filmed it so well last year, because I'd love to actually see one of those aggregations. And like I said, I haven't seen it. But yeah, when I'm out snorkeling in the summer months, you do find they get more, pretty common. I think the fishermen start catching loads of them in June off Newquay, which is clearly when they're abundant.
Yeah, June's normally good. And then Amy's asked, do you track sightings, and is there a way to do this online?
Yeah, so like I mentioned just now, there's a brilliant website called orcs.org.uk where you can upload records of any wildlife sightings in Cornwall and Scilly. We also have the Shoresearch Cornwall Facebook page, so any rare sightings, please share them on there as well. And there's national recording systems, but to be honest, we quite like to get Cornish records to come in through the Wildlife Trust if possible, so that then we see them before we then give them up to the national systems. Someone said, with any of these foreign species, is there a big risk to native more native species? So they could displace native species, but with all non-native species, it is hard to predict exactly how negative the impact will be. And some species will arrive and everyone will sort of panic, but actually they may not have much negative impact. So before we call a non-native species an invasive species, we have to sort of figure out what sort of level of impact they're going to have. And I think one of the problems with some of the species is the effects they have. So the mitten crab, for example, makes burrows in the edges of the rivers, and that can cause increased erosion. But I don't think they're, apart from that, I don't think they're actually harming other species. So I'm not sure. If we've got Chris still in the audience, she might be able to answer that question. I think on the continent where they've seen loads of these little shore crabs, the Asian shore crabs, they've seen species like common shore crab, European shore crab become rarer. But I don't think they've ever kind of caused a real ecological problem as a result of that, as far as I'm aware. But it's certainly something to watch.
I was thinking, I think crawfish have caused problems in rivers, haven't they? Where they
freshwater crayfish,
crayfish,
crayfish, same sort of word, isn't it?
Yeah,
they have. That's very true, very true. And I didn't really talk about freshwater crayfish, did I, in my presentation? But yeah, they have caused a big problem because they've pushed out the European crayfish, haven't they? The white-clawed crayfish is becoming very rare as a result of these American signal crayfish. Yeah. But no, we haven't seen that in any marine species causing big problems. Oh, there is one that we're always watching out for. Yeah, fingers crossed. One we're watching out for is the American lobster. And an American lobster, biologists are really worried that if they take over, they could outcompete the European lobster. And then, the American lobster also has some diseases that might be passed on to the European lobster. So it's not just the animal itself; it could also diseases and things like that being spread is also a concern.
It's the same with the crayfish, wasn't it? That's why their native crayfish has gone, because of the American disease.
Yeah, that's what Tim was just saying. Oh, it's the disease as well, is it? Yeah, that's right. The disease is a vector of the disease, rather than them actually fighting. But
both, I think.
A few years ago, a large number of American lobsters, which are quite different looking, they've got much wider claws and they're a different, but more reddish sort of colour. A big load of them got released into the sea by some well-meaning Buddhists who had bought them in a restaurant aboard a cruise liner and decided to liberate them in the Solent, and that caused a lot of concern from fishermen and conservationists, as a result of a well-meaning act, but obviously they're not meant to be here, they're meant to be on the other side of the Atlantic. Great, right, well, thank you very much. I think that's the end of the questions. It's been great. Thank you for the questions, really good. I hope you found the talk interesting. I had to sort of rabbit on a little bit towards the end to get it in to my 40 minutes. But yeah, it will be viewable on YouTube. So I'm probably not even going to bother editing it. I'll probably just put it straight up there in its raw form. And like I said, please do tell people about it, and hopefully lots of people are going to be getting into learning about rockpool creatures and local marine life. And as I already mentioned, there's a whole series of these talks coming up. So please keep a lookout and book on using the Eventbrite links that we've provided on Shoresearch Cornwall Facebook page. And that way you won't miss them. Like I said, tomorrow's one is looking really popular, and I'm looking forward to hearing Heather tomorrow talking about sea slugs. That includes the sea hares and the nudibranchs, all the really weird and wonderful, beautiful creatures in that family. So looking forward to that one tomorrow. And there you go. Excellent, everybody. Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you again.